About 3.5 years ago, our superintendent came to me and our instructional folks, and we had a meeting, and they said, "Hey, what do you think about one-to-one?" And as we started thinking about the one-to-one at first, I like technology, so I'll be the first to say that I was for it before we ever got started. But our instructional person, being the instructional person, said, "Hey, what are we going to do? We need to take a look at it." And what we began to take a look at, and it was this. We had to come to the understanding that the high school students of today come to our classrooms armed with skills that high schools have often been ignoring, or maybe even fighting for far too long. Today's teen has a Facebook page, a Twitter account, a smartphone with hundreds or maybe thousands of apps, video game systems that allow them to select games to play, movies to watch, all while connecting to the internet and with people all around the world. This access to the internet has made the American teen the most plugged in individuals on the planet. The successful high school, in my opinion, of a 21st century must be prepared to tap into that interest. Understand the technology skills that our students are coming to us with so that we can develop students that are capable of competing in a world that is getting smaller and smaller, a large part to do because of technology. These young people have a completely different learning style than even students of 5 years ago. And just think, 5 years ago, we knew nothing of Facebook or Twitter. Our focus as educators must be to take their interest in technology and use it as a way to engage them in their own learning. In my opinion, that's what a one-to-one learning initiative is all about. To be successful, these initiatives must fundamentally change the way instruction is delivered in a high school. The first time we spoke about this at our high school, that's what I said. Instruction is going to fundamentally change at the high school if we want this to work. Are you ready for it? And fortunately, when we took the straw poll at the high school, we were 100% in support. And you know what? That's great for our students. To be successful in these initiatives, like I said, must change the way we look and deliver instruction in the high school. We always seem to be talking about student engagement. And what better way to engage students than by using technology? Instruction must become more interactive as an exchange between teacher and student in which the teachers guide and facilitate as the students become more and more responsible and accountable for their own learning. The possibilities are endless as the world opens up in the classroom and students create, develop, design their own work. However, to fully take advantage of all the possibilities, a school district must lay a comprehensive plan, or these type initiatives are destined to fail. It's easy, guys, to search Google and find districts who have not had success with a one-to-one. 3 years ago, when we began researching laptops at Larue, we entered the process with an open mind, not knowing if we were even going to do the initiative. We didn't know what vendor we were going to use, what software we needed, what changes we needed to make in our infrastructure, and would this truly lead to student achievement. We started with visits to other districts, talking to vendors, and getting back together as a group, including more stakeholders each step along the way, and this process repeated itself several times. I must say that this was probably the most transparent, inclusive process I've ever been in public education, because we're talking about a major investment from our community. And for our community to accept this and buy into this, we needed their help and we needed their support. And therefore, we called upon them, and they were there each step of the way. I would encourage every district that's interested in a one-to-one laptop initiative to take their own journey. You know, your journey may not look like ours, and that's okay. I think you need to do your homework. I think you need to visit other districts. I think you need to listen to all the vendors, and most of all, take time and choose what works best for you. I'm going to go through a 10-step process that I would encourage those interested in a one-to-one initiative to consider. What I did was I took something off Darcy Moore's blog and I plugged in what we have done at Larue County. And what I see here, guys, is a framework that you can work from as you move forward in your one-to-one initiative. First, funding. That's the fun word to say these days, right? Money. Well, you know, we are in an era of shortages and cuts and technology, but in my opinion, technology has to be a priority. It's not our future, it's today. My hat's off to our school board, who in 2004 began saving for a major initiative, not even at that time knowing what that major initiative may be. It ended up being the one-to-one initiative. And because of their ability to know they needed to save for something special in the future, our students at Larue County High School today are having the fruits of that labor. What I'm going to do now is, as we go through this, is I'm going to let Mr. Sanders speak just a second on funding.
About the funding of the Laptop Learning Initiative. This is something that the Larue County Board of Education has been saving actually for years. We were able to save over a period of time. When we started the initiative, we had $1,250,000 earmarked for the initiative, and when we ran the numbers, and we wanted to be able to sustain this. This wasn't something that we just wanted to throw out there and not be able to sustain. So we looked at it and felt like if we could pretty much set aside the majority of the money over a period of to sustain the initiative for 8 years, that this would definitely be a great start. So when we ran the numbers for this initiative, it's cost a little more than $800,000 for the first 4 years, and then a little over $700,000 for the next 4 years. So we almost have the majority of that saved at this time. So we feel really good about being able to sustain the initiative.
Support for professional development. For us, ladies and gentlemen, that was the deal breaker. Instructionally at Larue County High School, you know, we've aligned our curriculum. We've created common assessments. You know, we began professional learning communities. We're scoring our common assessments in our departments, and they're placing those scores in calculators, giving ourselves a pretty good predictor of where we're going to score on state and federal assessments. We felt like this was the next natural step in the direction of that we wanted to go. Technology, we believe, would engage our students, thus taking the next step. Professional development, PD, that enabled our staff to grow as facilitators, not just learning a program. We didn't want professional development that was teaching programs. We wanted professional development that was showing our teachers how to facilitate in a 21st century classroom. And I can say to you that we looked and looked and looked, and that was the deciding factor on the vendor that we chose in choosing which direction we wanted to go on a one-to-one. Miss Amanda Reed, who's an instructional supervisor, will talk a second here about professional development.
When we started down this road for professional development with our laptop initiative, we were specifically looking for professional development that would be job embedded. That's in line with what we've been doing for several years now in this district around building curriculum maps and student learning targets. We often bring teachers in departments and work on things that are specific to their areas, and we wanted to be able to continue that model with professional development for this initiative. We wanted to make sure that our professional development was focused on providing teachers with real experiences so that they could see what their learning should be like as a 21st century learner, and they're better able to replicate that with students. We did not want to have professional development that was training on how to use tools, how to use this program or this software. We want professional development around 21st century learning. What are 21st century skills? How do we incorporate that into classroom instruction and ensure that students are learning 21st century skills? And then bring in the technology piece as to how do we use this as a tool to make that happen. The professional development is not about technology. The professional development is about learning and how do we use this tool to accomplish that goal.
Next up is to create a small, motivated team. We began with a small team of administrators who first visited. We visited Todd County, I guess, about 2 springs ago, and that grew every time. Like I said before, it grew as we went. As the process grew, we included not just the superintendent and the administrative team, but we came back with teachers making the visits. We took students, we took community leaders with us. We also took. Like I said, students and community leaders as well as faculty and staff, and we made multiple visits to more than one district. We also did a conference call with Henrico County, Virginia, that I think in the end is what sold us in the direction that we chose to go. We also went with, once we decided the professional development and the vendor, we chose a team of teachers they chose us. They volunteered to be a part of it at the high school. 10 teachers who said, hey, I believe in this enough that I want to dedicate my time to improve instruction at the high school. They volunteered. Superintendent later was gracious enough to put a stipend with that, but they more than give their time to come back and get training, and then to come back and develop it to the teachers in their particular department.
Some reflection over how the year has run so far with professional development. We did have a couple of days in the summer with all staff to begin to get them oriented, but before that we started working with what we call our 21st Century Learning Team. That's about 10 teachers, and they represent all departments here at the high school. And those teachers came in the summer and had some pre-PD and helped us plan what the professional development should look like for the rest of the staff. We every quarter we have a coach from Dell to come in and to spend a day coaching teachers, and then spend a second day releasing that team of teachers to train them to go deeper with them in their professional learning. And then in turn, those teachers then take that learning back to their departments. It's a slow process, but I think it needs to be slow at this point so people get a good foundation for where they're headed. This summer, we'll come back again and have a couple of days with all staff. We anticipate that our technology team will be presenting some of the professional development this summer. They'll continue to work with our Dell partner on what the full staff PD will look like, but then we will have several breakout sessions where teachers can go to different activities to fine-tune where they are in their development. And we're going to continue that process for the next several years. We hope 2 to 3 years down the road we'll be self-sufficient with that, and we can continue with our technology team, sending them to exercises and workshops and bringing them back, but probably not so much of the standalone professional development that we're doing right now to get everyone up to speed, but more job embedded, more as PD is intended to be along the way.
Of course, the next step that I want to address here is high expectations. Of course, our goal is for our whole staff to make use of this. You want to know how did you make that happen at Larue County High School? And I will say that leading up to the rollout of laptops, we are on early release Fridays, and we took 45 of those 90 minutes each Friday from the first Friday of school beginning until rollout, and teachers were trained each Friday. The trainers trained our rest of our staff each Friday on various subjects. We tried to build experts in each department area and each subject area for so they could have someone to turn to. We also made a point of when we were creating our schedule that we made sure at least every period of the day one of the people that were on the tech team was having planning. So not all three of the 5 or 3 of the 10 tech team people have planning all first period. We tried to even it out during the day where that if you needed help was always there. There's other places to get help, but sometimes it's easier to turn to your peers and ask for it. I believe that our teachers saw the power in engaging students and the students creating their own work. And I think that as they begin to let go and let see the students learn and achieve and also demonstrate, and the example I'll use is one of my, I would call more traditional teachers in the past, came up with a final where he actually allowed the students to use Movie Maker and discuss the subjects that were all addressed during that semester class. It was an elective class, so I think he was a little more willing to let go just a little bit there. But the work that were produced by the students blew him away. He couldn't believe that our students are that proficient at technology. And of course, I told him, I said, I think we were not shocked, but some of our staff were the quality of the work of our students. They are so many times not just a little bit ahead of us, but they're way ahead of us when it comes to technology. Also, there's two tools that I want to say that we focused on. We didn't purchase a lot of software when we started this venture. Of course, the first one I'm going to say is free, and that's Moodle. We've made big use of Moodle. It's a practical application. Having a son who's a freshman at Georgetown College, he's using Moodle. I wish we had had laptops 1 year sooner, so he would have been prepared to use that when he went away to college. It is similar, for those that aren't familiar with Moodle, similar to Blackboard, like they use at Western and some other universities. I think that wasn't essential. The other one is Dino, and I'm not here to sell any particular brand. I know Synchronize is what Apple has, and there's other brands out there. But I will say that in a small rural community, the ability to see what your students are looking at, to make sure that if I don't want them to go to this website or that website, that I can lock them down, that gives a peace of mind to a good percentage of your community, or at least I can say of our community. That being said, we've had very little resistance once we explained to the parents the tools that the teachers had right at their fingertips. So Dino was a major force in what we've done, along with Moodle. Of course, procedures and protocols. We got to have rules, right? We're a school. Mr. Arms, who's my assistant principal, will talk a little bit about this.
At Larue County, we did a little research as far as visiting other schools. We went to Todd County and took a look at their laptop initiative. Part of the issue with forming rules and procedures, I think, is to not try to reinvent the wheel. It's already been done, so we borrowed some things from other schools. And what we did then was we formed a committee of parents, a few teachers, and some tech staff, and a couple of students. And we kind of adopted our own policy. At that point, we put it to the site-based council for approval, and they approved our policy. And so far, it's worked really, really well. I think with anything else, the more rules you make, the more muddy the waters are. So our rules are pretty basic: take care of the laptops, and don't do anything, on the laptops as far as downloading games. And so far, it's worked pretty well.
I will say games are something that they do like to download. I will say, too, that I'll clarify one thing. We did at Larue County Schools decide to allow our students to download music onto their laptops. And the reason we did that is after a lot of discussion, Mr. Freddie Newby, who's our CIO, and I came to the conclusion that the kids will value it more if their music's on the laptop. They're liable to take just a little bit better care of the laptop if their music's on it. And in the end, as long as they're doing it through a legal source, we don't have a problem with it. We have a problem with LimeWire or something like that. But if they're doing it legally through iTunes, we're fine. And that's what we said in our trainings. I will also say this, that these rules that we came up with, they are online available if you guys want to look them up on our website. But I will tell you that we trained all 715 of our parents before we ever gave out one laptop. They will come in because if nothing else, the students want the laptop, so they're going to encourage their parents to get in. But we had about 8 to 10 trainings where we got parents in and we went over the rules. Not only went over the rules, we went over the laptop itself in general because some parents are not as familiar with technology. That was a very powerful tool in them being a partner with us. One thing that I do believe I shared with every group was, we're going to stumble, we're going to fall. When we do, help us up. And we promise when you stumble and you fall and you need help, guess what? We're going to be there to help you or your student as well. And so far, it's been a really good partnership. But I think that, like I said from the beginning, we included all the stakeholders. We took our time. We moved forward slowly. And I think that's one reason we've had a good implementation to this point. Also, the next item is keeping students in the loop. This goes along with informing students about day-to-day expectations. Our students were involved with visits to other districts and contributed great. It's unbelievable. I would say that if you're looking at this, you'll lose a lot if you don't include students in your discussions. what they said in discussions with adults, things we never thought of. They were extremely powerful, what they shared with us. Their ideas, their thoughts, what it should look like in a classroom. They were ready for them. And I think really, and I can't speak for the superintendent, but I think that was one thing that helped sell us even more on it, that we were making the right decision, that our students were ready for the laptops and ready for us to make this move. I also believe that laptops help the communication between students and teachers, whether it's through Moodle or through email. I do believe that it does lead for more communication. I do believe, I've got English teachers that are now telling me they're able to get more drafts from students and they're able to give more feedback. They're not having to write. They've learned how to insert the bubbles and type the comments. And from a school that was spending over between $35,000 and $40,000 a year in paper. Of course, it's my hope that within a year that maybe we can cut that in half, and then maybe another year cut that in half again. But I think keeping students in the loop with what's going on and building a good rapport, being able to build a better rapport with our students is a result of that can come from laptops.
Having a laptop in the hands of every student has offered an amazing opportunity for us to develop different kinds of relationships with our students. They have immediate access to us. They have immediate access to our feedback. No longer are we taking stacks and stacks of papers home and keeping them for weeks and weeks at a time, as opposed to getting them back in a timely manner with comments attached that have meaning to them, and also that they can read, that aren't chicken scratched on. My students email me constantly asking for clarification on assignments. They have access to me like they have never had in the past and at any time. They also are much more adept at researching, at finding information, at getting to things that they weren't ever capable of doing before, because the access to computers or to the internet was limited. When you're dealing with going from a situation where you have 2 computer labs with 30 computers in them and very limited access with 40 teachers in the building to every kid having a laptop, then you're talking about the access to resources and the potential being unlimited.
The next item is the advocate of appropriate models of pedagogy. I would say I would like to just say that our partnership with Dell in this venture, when it comes to professional development, has been amazing. They hit our teachers right where we are, and the direction we wanted to go. Our trainer is a former school teacher, and guys, school teachers can be a tough audience. We know they can be a tough audience. And when we have a trainer that can come in and sit down and talk teacher talk with teachers, and to gain their trust in a pretty short relative amount of time, that's pretty powerful. And we were fortunate to have that in our partnership. And because of that, I believe with the Fridays that we had, the groundwork that we laid, the summer training, then the groundwork we laid in the fall, that we were able to hit the ground running. I know we've had visitors to our school so far. Everyone has come away thinking, have you guys really only been doing this since October? And we have, and we've got a long ways to go. Invite anyone here today that wants to come, just send me an email. We'll do the best to get you in as quick as possible. I'm just so excited about what's going on in our school and what I saw in these other schools that we visited over the past 3 years. Just so excited that our students are engaged, our students are wanting to work. Another thing that I think that as a result of this is student accountability is at an all-time high. They have to turn it in. They can't. The dog doesn't eat it. It's there. It's there electronically. If I've got a person you're going to see speak in just a minute, Mr. Venegas, who's a Spanish teacher. When he's absent, he'll audio tape himself or videotape himself using the camera, so that when the students come in, he saved it to his Moodle page. They upload the video. They watch class. Although he's absent, they're still having class. That's powerful, guys. When it comes to the having teachers here, even when they're not here, they're here. We're not having to use. We still have a sub, but true instruction is still occurring in classroom that day. I'm just like I said, every day I think about this, how fortunate we are at Larue County to have one-to-one initiative. I'm just thankful because I see the power of it. I see the power in our students. I see the way they carry themselves with a little more pride as they walk down the high schools, knowing that we're at this point. Hopefully, every one of you will be on board soon. At this point, we're one of the few that are doing it.
My name is Jorge Venegas. I teach Spanish here at the Larue County High School, Spanish 2, 3, and AP. How are we using our laptops here? I'm using it on multiple levels. I encourage the students to articulate their answers to me versus writing them out. This does a couple of things for us. It helps me hear them speak the language. It also helps them listen to it, so when I record something for them, they are listening, they are writing their answers, and they are articulating. It also helps me to be able to give them much more homework, if you will, and that they can download it, they can take it home, they can use it whenever they need or whenever they have access to the laptop. It has brought much more dynamic participation from the students. They have that readily available to them at all times. So it's been a very good experience for us and the students as well.
As I've discussed a little bit already, as Moodle and Dino, I've kind of given you the background on that, so I'll go ahead into the videos.
I use Moodle in my classroom to do something called the reversed or flipped classroom, where students watch lectures at home. So I use podcasts. I video myself doing the lecture and then post that to Moodle. So it's basically a clearinghouse of information for the students to where they can access at any time. This lets them work at their own pace. It lets them be able to look back at the things they need to look back at. It's a way to keep themselves organized because they don't have to keep looking constantly or asking me for copies of things. Like old worksheets or if they've been absent or things like that. So it really is an organizational tool that helps in our move toward the digital classroom keep everybody organized and on track, an essential repository so that everybody knows where everything is. If you need a worksheet, it's on Moodle. If you need a podcast, it's on Moodle. If you need a textbook section, it's on Moodle. So it takes away a lot of the confusion for students and helps me streamline my operations in class because we get that roadblock out of the way because it's just not a question of where anything is.
Dino is a monitoring and presentation tool that we use here at LCHS. The monitoring part allows us to see what every student is doing during class, whether they're on task, if we're not in an instructional part of class. We also use it as a presentation tool where it's a lot like PowerPoint presentation, but it has a lot of different things that you can do with it where you can poll students, ask them a question for formative assessment to check where they're at as far as content is concerned. You can also check for understanding, where instead of asking the entire class for a thumbs up or a thumbs down, they can either click on green, yellow, or red, and that lets the teacher know if everybody's where they should be.
The next item is keeping parents and community informed. I told you before that we've every step of the way we included the community in this. But a lot of times the community doesn't come out to the local forum, or they don't always read every article. They don't always read the paper to come to it. So what we tried to do was inform our community in every way we could. At every chance, we contacted the local radio stations, the local television stations, our local newspaper, as well as a regional newspaper in Elizabethtown. They were so kind to always want to have a good story about public education. Up to the point we had rollout, we had television crews there. The NPR folks in Western Kentucky were nice enough to pick up a story on us. I can say that this is probably invaluable because there are people out there that may listen to NPR, they may listen to the local radio stations, and may never attend a school board meeting or a basketball game, or you may never see them, but they may live in your community. I think you need to reach out and try to touch all of those folks as you go along this process, because it's important to have them and have their support, and for them to understand the brevity and the importance of a one-to-one initiative, and why you're doing it, and how's it going to improve instruction, and also how's it going to improve the future of your community and the students that we're working with every day.
Initially, we got together and decided that we needed to definitely build a team of stakeholders to determine who is going to most benefit from this initiative, plus consider, who has a vested interest. And after we sat down and thought about it, obviously the teachers and the administration had a vested interest, plus the teachers and the students and parents and community. We also included the Chamber of Commerce because we felt like they'd be a very added benefit to it, and they were. What we did initially was we broke up the initial team that we developed, into subcommittees. One of the first committees was communications and relations, and Mr. Sanders headed that up. He made sure that the community was involved and well communicated with, so that they knew what all was involved in the process, of the financial side, the positives and negatives that we would face. Also, instructional side and professional development was Amanda Reed. She got with the staff. We partnered with Dell, and they brought in a team from Pearson, and they basically sat down and laid it all out, and we're still in the process of doing professional development. I have a feeling it'll probably be an ongoing process. Infrastructure was myself. We looked at what do we have now in place, where do we need to go with it, how much is it going to cost us to make this happen. There are a lot of factors involved in the infrastructure side. And the last subcommittee was guidelines and management, and that was more of a disciplinary side. What are the expectations of students with the devices? And Mr. Arms has done a pretty good job of trying to keep up with making sure students are being responsible and following through with what they need to with the technology.
And reflection. We're still pretty early in this process, just having a rollout in October. I know we did the Lodi Lounge survey last spring with our staff, and I look for us to go back and do that as well at the end of this school year. We feel that we have a lot of accountability to our community, and our school board feels the same way. We are currently looking, I believe, as Mr. Sanders will discuss in his part of the video, looking for a vendor to come in to an independent third party to assess how we're doing. We need to remain transparent throughout this process, and now that we have the machines, we need to make sure that we're using them in the right way. So I think having reflection also deals with professional development, where we at and where we need to go. It also encompasses the entire process of a one-to-one, but reflection is very important if you want us to have sustainability and credibility in your community.
Some of our goals when we started this initiative, we'll bring in an independent third-party evaluator to look and see if we are moving forward with these things, such as increasing student proficiency in the 21st century learning skills, promoting creativity and innovation, increased student proficiency in information, increasing the percentage of graduates who are college and or career ready, and I think that's a big one there. Graduation rate, attendance rate, those kinds of things. But just to look at the entire initiative and just to say, these are some things that you're doing well, these are some things that you need to continue, and these are maybe some things that you're not doing so well. So we have not contracted with this third party yet, but we do have some names of some companies who do this type of work.
In planning a program of this magnitude, one of the most important necessities, like I've said many times, is to include the whole community in the process. Everyone is a stakeholder, Therefore, the process must be open and transparent. No question is too small to be answered. No fear is too irrelevant to be dealt with. Not everyone is going to agree, but everyone must be heard and respected. All members of a community must at least have an understanding of how student learning will be enhanced when they harness their technological abilities and use them in conjunction with their education. Teachers have to be willing to come out of their comfort zones and embrace modern technology, using it to engage learners, to empower students, and to be in control of information, to organize it, analyze it, and use it to create their own success. So I send this challenge to you. Please take your time in this process. Enjoy that journey. Do your homework, and you'll be ready for the endless possibilities of what a one-to-one laptop initiative could do for your district. Thank you.